cars have actually been very, very quick about the cones that are on the main straight, delineating the route that you can take through the Hyundai Curva and back onto the Grand Prix track to just do a semi-outlap before heading towards Hanson back. Qualifying 3 for the 53rd edition of the ADAC Ravenol 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, starting slightly later than planned because of top qualifying having to be put further back in the day after a big accident at the first attempt. We now know that number 16 Shira Sport Porsche will not be taking part in this year's 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, but that's not done and dusted for Shira Sport. They do have another car, and they'll be putting all the eggs in the Audi basket for car number 1, which is actually the fastest car in this combined session so far. Christopher Haase, Luca Ludwig, Markus Winkelhock in the number 1 Audi is the best time to date at 8:10.580. Thank you for joining us then for this 65-minute session with Johnny Palmer, Ben Constanduras and Joe Bradley overseeing matters.
A reminder that we won't see those cars who were in top qualifying in this session, not at least for the first 15 to 20 minutes. The original 1.5 hour session stated that we wouldn't see them for the first 20 minutes, but this session has now been shortened, and it isn't entirely clear in the regulations whether that means the amount of time they are not allowed to be seen has also been shortened. But they have to go through parc fermé conditions for top qualifying, and they have to be scrutineered to some degree.
That's a lot longer than 20 minutes.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure how they deal with that, but either way, we will be missing 16 SP9 cars.
The thing is, though, Ben, they are not really going to gain anything from this because they will still form up in the top 16 places on the grid tomorrow at the race start. It's from 17th place really that we are focusing on now. So we've had one qualifying session, 2 qualifying session, and now this third. It's all put together, and if that 8 minutes 10, for instance, the quickest time that we've seen in any of our sessions from the number 1, it's kind of irrelevant because that car will start where it finished in top qualifying. However, the rest of the grid from 17th place down over, that can still swap and change around this evening, and whether we will see that, well, that's what we're here for. We're going to be looking out for that.
Yeah, look out for the likes of Kelvin van der Linde in the only BMW M4 that we've got in this session. The 98 car will want to start in that 18th spot, no doubt. We've also got 2 Ford Mustangs still to set their positions, the 63 and the 64. The 65 was in the previous session. And what about the 54, the dynamic Porsche? Always very strong. Bastien Bus has now got his name corrected, so he's now called Bastien Bus rather than Bus Bastien on the timing screens. And we also have back in our session 2 cars that have yet to set any times whatsoever. The RPM Racing Tracy Krone Racing Porsche. Yeah. We didn't see them at all yesterday.
Yeah, we haven't, have we?
No, yeah. But they are here, and they are here with their usual lineup of Hampret, Krone and Nick Jongson, and they are joined by Patrick Huisman as well, the one-time class winner of Le Mans, brother to Duncan. They are turning their first laps right now, so they add 1 extra car to the 135 that we were previously seen. Remember Q1, start of Q1, we had a fire for the 97 car. That was taken back to its workshop, worked on overnight, presumably new engine. That was what they thought was the issue. And that has now appeared and done a shakedown lap. So we're up to 136 cars that we've seen, but we're losing the 16 car we think is being completely pulled and withdrawn from the event. So that brings us back to 135. I'm waiting to see if some of the other cars that were on the entry list that we didn't see yesterday make an appearance today.
Yeah, because qualifying 1 and 2 on the combined document, I've got 135 listed, and we're already apparently up to 136 cars on the track. So
because RPM have turned up for the first time.
That'll be them, won't it? Yeah, of course. And there is another RPM racing car, which is the 77... Or is it's the
778, actually, you're right, yes. Yeah. So that's the second of the RPM cars in the SB7 category that is making its first laps. Did we see the other one?
That's a very good question.
I've seen it in the garage.
Yeah. Well, the other car is the treble 7, so the Cup 2 car.
Okay, yes, we have seen that one.
So treble 7 and 778 are both offerings from RPM Racing. There is scope. I mean, it was originally advertised, this event, to have 140 cars. The maximum is 150. You can't go above that under the current licence, but I think we're unlikely to break that record, or get anywhere close to it, should I say. And the story, therefore, of the 2 previous sessions, of which this is effectively an extension of, is that the number 1 Audi was fastest after Chris Haas has set his time last night, sharing with Luca Ludwig and Marcus Winkelhock, who was put out for the top qualifying session. Then you got the 28 at Sportsline Lamborghini, Marco Mappelli, Christian Engelhardt, Luca Engstler, ahead of the 16 Shira Sport Porsche. Well, it's unlikely that's going to get any more action, but it will still be, or it is still 3rd fastest. And remember, that was the Lawrence Van Toor time, done very close to the end of qualifying 2 on Thursday evening.
To get them into that session that eventually he ended up crashing out of.
Yes, I know. Think about it from a mechanics point of view.
Oh.
You know, you've already rebuilt the whole of that rear end because of the drive shaft issue, Joe. That did quite a bit of damage to the engine, we're told. You've made it pristine. You've run it in Q2 to make sure that everything is fine, and then not quite on the opening lap, but the next lap, it's in a box of bits again.
We were in that garage yesterday afternoon, weren't we? And some of those boys looked like they'd grafted pretty hard. It is hot here at the Nürburgring, and they'd put a lot of effort into getting that car out on track. They've had, I mean, if it wasn't for the fact they have no luck, they've had no luck at all, really. They really have been hexed on that number 16, and I really don't know why. They've got a great driver lineup. They're a solid team here. Shira Sport is, stalwart here at the Nürburgring, and if any team can put a car like that back together, it's Shira Sport. And I'm hoping to see it in tomorrow's warm-up session. We'll see. When you're ready, guys, I'll give everybody an update on class leaders going into this final hour.
Well, we're about to see a mega lap, I think, from Kelvin van der Linde here. We've got green, 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 purple, green, green sector times. Fastest time from him so far in the 3 qualifying sessions, an 8:16.738. But whilst most of the cars are doing in and out laps on the Grand Prix loop, getting themselves shaken down for this second day of qualifying practice, it's given the opportunity for some of our SP9 cars to find clear track. And we've got Bastian Buus in the number 54 setting purple sectors out there, and we've also got Kelvin van der Linde. So we are going to see a bit of a change at the head of qualifying, which is effectively the grid from 17th downwards in SP9. Just a little update from top qualifying. 2 cars with penalties after that, not having their cars on the ground at the 3-minute signal was both the 48 and the 65, and they have been dropped 3 grid positions. Now, that means that they can actually be dropped behind some of these cars, which allows potentially van der Linde, if he's fastest in the qualifying, to move up a little bit.
So 48 and
65.
65, which
so Dan Arrow and the Mustang, yes, exactly. Here comes Kelvin van der Linde then, round the final turn onto the Grand Prix start and finish straight with a Porsche ahead of him. And actually, this isn't going to be much of an improvement, is it? 7.5 seconds slower. So in the end, he does go slower than his best lap, I'm afraid.
I have got a little bit of an update on the number 11 Mercedes that we saw grind to a halt there and didn't complete its flying lap in top qualifying. That's the Higher Hartling Fitcher-Brooker or Brook Mercedes. Team principal Thomas Angera has reported they haven't got the car back. It's still on its way back, but it looks like it's a rear suspension part, right rear suspension breakage. When they get the car back, they'll be able to confirm that, but at the moment, that was what put the car out of top qualifying.
I'm just wondering what the best case scenario might be now for instance, the Rover Racing BMW, because we already know that of those 17 that should have been taking part in top qualifying, the 16's no longer a going concern. The 11 car has been put to the back of the whole group. There are question marks about the 17 Mercedes of Anna Christodoulou and the 27 Lambo of Mirko Bortolotti. Then we've got grid drops for the 48 Porsche and the 65 Mustang. So, I mean, could the Rover BMW be in the top 10 at the end of all this? Potentially, yes. There's reason to push in this session because you just never know where you might start tomorrow's race.
Interestingly, reports from top qualifying from some of our drivers saying and suggesting that it's a little bit too hot at the moment. By the end of the lap, either the circuit feeling greasy or that's diverting the blame away from the tyres slightly overheating come the end of the lap. It is hot. It's possibly the hottest that it's been so far this weekend. It's unusually hot for a Nürburgring 24-hour race, that's for sure. And there's more and more darker pieces of tarmac out there on the Nordschleife, which retains heat much better than the greyer, lighter-coloured tarmac. And so by the end of the lap, where we have a lot of resurfacing, tyres starting to go off and car moving around.
I just want to give you Kevin Estra's quote after he got out of the car. There's nothing better than driving a lap of the Nordschleife alone in the Grello with new tyres and new traffic. It's incredible. I'm really looking forward to the weekend. We have great conditions, maybe a little too warm for the tyres, concurring with what Ben's found out, but good for the fans. We'll let Thomas Prying drive tomorrow. I've done my job for the weekend. Well, has he not done his job for the weekend? You couldn't have asked more from Kevin Estra in that number 911.
Putting his feet up, is he?
Yeah, I think so. Not sure a big cigar comes into the... This guy's an athlete, isn't he?
I'm expecting to see Estra next weekend as well. I imagine
so.
Imagine so, but actually I have a feeling not.
I'm not sure he's in the list of the 7, you know, which
Lawrence
might be 8.
Van Goor was?
Lawrence...
Because he now isn't.
Yeah, well, indeed.
Unfortunately, that 16 car confirmed as withdrawn. I mean, there's still possibilities of a change.
Yeah, of course, we're 8 days out from that event, so there's scope for things to change yet. But yeah, there were a number of names that were conspicuous by their absence on the initial entry for the Spa 24 Hours next weekend. Also part of the Intercontinental GT Challenge for this season.
Which this race is, with 12 entries. It's a manufacturer's championship, that. So it's not team by team, it's just manufacturer by manufacturer. Just 4 manufacturers represented in IGTC here, but then it goes to the full complement, of course, at Spa, with the headline SRO event being Spa 24 Hours.
Yeah, unbelievably, Kevin Estra's not on the Spa 24 entry list, nor Lawrence Van Goor. Brother Dries is for local team to Spa, Team WRT.
But Dries isn't here.
He's at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, there you go.
Doing the Sailing 6 Hours in a GTP BMW. So yeah, Dries isn't here, but he will be at Spa.
Actually, what's worse, doing the 24 Hours of Nürburgring or flying to America, racing for 6 hours, flying back? I think they're probably equally knackering, to be fair, unless you've got yourself a private jet, which Max Verstappen might be able to stretch to, but not necessarily jobbing GT3 driver.
Van Tours have a very popular podcast, so I'm told. So that'll be a revenue stream.
Yeah, that will be. Might not be long before we see Hans Hermann enter this race. If his Red Bull contract allows.
Dennis Olsen is one of those drivers that is driving in all 3 races, and he's doing all 3 races in the same car because, of course, he's a Ford contracted driver, and he's therefore in the Mustang at Le Mans, Mustang here, and Mustang at Spa.
Not the same chassis, though.
I imagine not.
Yeah.
He might be tied, but I'm not sure the same car could do all 3. But it would be interesting to note those drivers that are using the same chassis versus those drivers that are using different cars. Because, of course, Kevin Estra last weekend in a hypercar, this weekend in a GT3 car. And they do run to different regulations. A Le Mans GT3 car and a Nürburgring 24-hour GT3 car and a Spa 24-hour GT3 car have 3 different sets of balance of performance regulations to run to. So, yes, it's the same car. You might be on different tyres because, of course, Goodyear for Le Mans, here more open, and then Pirelli's definitely at Spa. And then you've got, so that, you know, it's not just transferring your skills across the 3 and easy peasy. There is lots to adjust to.
Completely different car, I would imagine, for Le Mans, which is all about straight line speed.
Also, yeah.
And very little handling through the twisty bits.
Talking of Olsen, he's got some purple sectors on our timing screen. And we might see that Ford number 64 improve its lap time. We're not... our TV director is picking out some of the more unusual cars to spot, where we're looking at the Subaru WRX right now. We were looking at a couple of old BMWs before. Just the one 4-wheel drive Subaru developed specifically for the Nürburgring 24 Hours here. and it's the 3-box looking hatchback rather than this car mainly built as a 2-box after the more familiar rally cars that we've seen over the years. And again, it's another of those Japanese teams coming over and racing at Le Mans.
I think that's actually leading its class.
It's only got
Number
two
88. Only two
cars in the
I'm going to
class.
confirm that. I'm just loading up the data now from the for our class leaders, and we'll have a bit of a rundown. 47, just over 47 minutes remaining in this session. So usually we would be saying that's plenty of time, but it's not really when you're at the Nürburgring. Recalibrate the mind. It's a very, very long lap here. Totally different to any racetrack anywhere in the world.
And Olsen does improve his lap time, so he goes now up to 2nd position of those not qualified yet. So that would, it's behind the Pro Sport Aston Martin by 0.4 of a second. But that is an improvement for Dennis Olsen, and the first improvement for the SP9 cars, at least in this session.
And Stephen Pallet's at the wheel of the 37 Pro Sport Racing Aston. That's the green and orange car if you spot it around the racetrack. It was actually a Marek Bachmann time from yesterday, 8:14.6, which was nearly enough to get it into the 5, wasn't it? And then at the last moment, Vantor did his time in the 16 Porsche, pushing the 37 car out. But they might feel like they're a little cruelly treated because it was just over 1/10 of a second in it.
Well, they're thinking, Johnny, just how important is it in a 24-hour race around the Nürburgring? They've got to start thinking about how they're going to address their race and forget qualifying. Yes, get as far up the grid as they possibly can. They know they've got the pace. That lap time that they can bring from qualifying to, arguably, in probably the best setting last night as the sun went down. The track was cool, the air was thick. Whether we get any laps that match that period of that qualifying 2 session, I find that very doubtful. Absolutely. And so that team now, just missing out top qualifying, they are asking themselves that, well, you know what, just how important is it in a 24-hour race? As long as we've got our race heads on and we use the strategy-wise, we can just pick our way slowly through the field ahead of us because they know they've got the pace.
It's very easy from a team perspective to switch that political narrative very quickly, isn't it? You know, you get pole position, oh yeah, really, really important for us to have track position.
Absolutely.
And if you miss out on top qualifying, oh no, that's fine, because it was never going to have an impact on the result. It's a 24-hour race, we focus on that instead.
It's how to motivate the team as well. It's a team sport, this. It's not necessarily all about the drivers. You've got a crew of mechanics and team personnel that you have to keep motivated throughout the weekend. 24-hour racing is very tiring. You've got to keep them motivated, so you've got to find a positive out of the negative. The negative being, we didn't make top qualifying. However, right guys, we're going to focus on the race now because we're still in with a chance. We know we've got race pace, we know we've got good lap pace, so that's what's going to bring us a good result at the end of, you know, when we get to the checkered flag time on Sunday afternoon. That's how you motivate the team. Forget the negatives, think about the positives. May
I draw your attention to the onboard in which we are running at the moment? We're on board with the Subaru WRX, which is from Subaru Technica, which is the Japanese arm. Just have a listen to the gear changes.
Yeah, that is.
Listen to the gear changes. Oh, we're on a back straight now, so we're not going to get one. But you may have noticed, I thought somebody was typing in the back of. There we go. There's another one.
That's the paddle shift, the click.
Yeah,
the switch.
Sounds like a sim, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. You know what? It actually is. It's just a micro switch.
Well, yes.
Paddle clicks a switch. That sends a signal to the actuator in the gearbox. It changes the gear.
I've never had such clarity from the gear change clicking.
Let's listen to that again, Ben.
It is exactly like when you're standing at a sim racing competition and you haven't got the sound of the engines because they're going into the headphones of the drivers in the sims, but all you can hear is the pedals going blip, blop, blip, and the clicking of the gears. Beautiful, obviously very, very technically perfect inside that car, but we've run on board with it for the last good 10 minutes or so, and that was just being drawn into the... I thought you were typing, Johnny.
I'm always typing.
Here we go again. Oh, we're not sticking with it, but...
But if it does come on there, because, you know, I'm a geek as well.
It's got Carlo Van Dam, Kota Sasaki from Super GT, and Tim Schrick Renato Kubo is in that car. So they're all Super
Carlo Van Damme.
Yeah, Super GT.
He should be an international spy with a name like Carlo Van Damme.
And he is actually a
factory driver,
R&D development driver for Subaru Technica, and based himself out in Japan. So this is another Super GT group of drivers coming over and participating at the Nordschleife. As we see with so many, there's so many teams here that have come over from those championships and from Asia to race here this weekend.
They are currently the fastest car in SP4T. I think we said there are two cars. It shares that class with a Porsche 718 Cayman of HY Racing Andalusia Circuit. Bruno Barbaro, Jacques Derain, Olivier Meutens and Fabrice Reicher in the number 69 Porsche. Two cars in SP4T, currently being led by that Subaru Technica International, car number 88.
And I think the reason for that is that that might be one of those cars we've not seen out, because looking at the entry list, looking at the timing screen, there is no other SP4Ts that have set a time. So
check that again, because it's easy to miss.
We do know
it's
that
underneath the 88.
We're missing 5 cars from the original entry list on our timing screens, and that could be one.
Cup 2, the class leader of Cup 2 is the number 948. That's the 48 Losch Motorsport by Black Falcon. The AT2 class is being led by the number 644 Max Kruse Racing. SP Pro, that's being led by the number 347, the Toyo tyres with Ring Racing entry. Door Motorsport, the number 59, leads SP8T. AT3, that's the number 19 of Max Kruse Racing. And TCR, Hyundai Motorsport Target Competition, the number 830 leads that. The number 962, the W&S Motorsport entry, leads Cup 3. SP10 is the 111 numbered SR Motorsport by Schnitzlem. And then we've got BSL Racing's number 77 leading the SP7 class. SP2T, that's the Toyota Gazoo Rookie Racing, entry number 109. The BMW M240i class is being led by the number 650, the Adrenaline Motorsport Team Manhattan Wheels. SP3T is being led by Hyundai Motorsport Target Competitions 303 entry. And then the V6 class, car 414, no team name, which is the thing I love about the Nürburgring 24 hours. And then the last of our classes to mention, the VT2 Hecker class, that is the number 520 Toyo tyres with Ring Racing entry.
And that is another of those Japanese groups of drivers. It's not an Japanese team, it's actually entered as a German team. But Giuliano Alesi is part of that team, the son of Jean, who's been racing out in Super GT and Super Formula. Katsuto Kotaka is another Toyota Gazoo Racing works driver in Super GT. Miki Koyama is a works driver in Super GT and Super Formula. She, best known in the W Series as well. And Yuichi Nakayama, another Super GT Toyota Gazoo Racing works driver. So although it's called Toyota Tyres with Ring Racing, it is very much part of that Toyota GR 4 cars, works cars that are basically here, and showing that Mr. Toyota loves the Nürburgring 24 hours so much that he's brought his son to come racing here.
And underneath that Gazoo Racing rookie team, if you peel back that sticker, it's KCMG running those cars, Matt Hausman's team.
I noticed there is a lot of Toyota Japan members in that team. It's definitely a half and half.
It's definitely a collaboration.
Yeah.
I would imagine that the race strategy might be being looked at by KCMG, because they have the experience of, putting a car through a race and when is the best time to pit. Because in the SP9 category, when we get into the meat of the race, you're looking at 8 laps for each of the GT3 cars. It can be a lot better for some of the lower category cars. SP7, which is still a thing here, which is the old class where all the Porsche Carrera Cup cars used to go into. That today is Cup 2, but there's still room for the older iterations of a Carrera Cup car in SP7, and they can go a little further on their fuel mileage. Joe mentioned the V6 category. That's got nothing to do with V6 engines. It's for production cars with an engine capacity between 3 and 3.5 litre. And the V5, which is for slightly smaller engines, 2.5 to 3 litre, has now got a new name at the top of the shop, I noticed. The V5 car now topped, or V5 class, now topped by the Porsche Cayman CQ11 of Mirko Buamish, who drives the 440 car. So, again, this session, what remains of it, so crucial for those classes further down the order. You'll already know which start group you're going to be in. And for the majority of the lower class cars, that's either in Startgruppe 2 or 3. And they're separated by a couple of minutes. So we have 3 individual race starts tomorrow from 4 o'clock, but that'll extend to about 4 or 5 minutes past 4. And the timing systems have to do very, very clever things, because, you know, when you're in start group 3, you're starting your race 4 or 5 minutes behind the SP9 front runners, and therefore, effectively, you've already lost the best part of 5 or 6 minutes on those. But everything is taken into account, comparing your start time to the completion of your first lap.
I like the fan favourite. It's got to be the SP3T class, hasn't it? 6 cars. What a lovely little mix. We've got the RSR Beetle. The White Angel for Fly and Help is the name of the team. 4 drivers in that one, and that is the class which, of course, has the Dacia Logan in. Ollis Garage Racing is the entry that's brought the Dacia along, and it's not even arguable that is the slowest car out there on the track, as far as I'm aware. It also shares Hyundai Elantra N Cup entry with Hyundai Motorsport, FK Performance Motorsport with the BMW M2, and then we've got a Mini Cooper and a Volkswagen Golf GTI.
To remind you of what happened yesterday with the number 97, the older Cup car. So this is a 997 Cup car, which caught fire. We eventually settled on a rear left brake binding, kind of similar to what happened to the 33 Falcon Motorsport Porsche on the opening lap of its top qualifying session. But that got so hot, it resulted in a fire in the back of that Porsche. And of course, they've been working on it to try and fix it in time for ideally this session to get just some running in it. But that fire didn't happen today. It happened during qualifying 1. And yes, the Charles-driven Porsche is now out there on the track. So this is the first laps it will have done in any of the qualifying sessions, but that is testament to the hard work of that crew with actually no name. So we can't pay tribute to them in that respect, but we know precisely who they are with their SP7 number 97.
Those guys.
Just those guys.
Yeah.
It's good enough.
You mentioned about the Dacia's lap time, fastest lap time for the Dacia Logan, which is 136th fastest and therefore slowest, is an 11 minutes 07. That compares to its nearest rival, which has done 9 laps. It's a BMW 325i of 10 minutes and 59 seconds.
But it's going quicker, Ben. It's going quicker every lap.
Okay.
And that 11 minutes 7.1 is its last lap by. So it is picking up speed.
Good. It wasn't really being driven very fast yesterday when we found it. But,
just keeping out of everyone's way.
Yeah, it does look like it's now on the racing line of such, and it looks to be hustling on, I think you would describe it as. And perhaps with not too much... we haven't got a lot of SP9 cars on track to really hassle it, so it can focus perhaps a little more and just going fast on its own and not getting out of the way of people.
Those drivers undoubtedly are in that car doing exactly that. They are not interested in where anyone else is, even in their class. Yeah, if they're going to come through, it'll be attrition because of the pace, the lack or lack thereof. They're just enjoying the drive and enjoying being part of this event. It's... You know, there are some people out there, I think you mentioned it, Johnny, about the individual rock festivals that we've got going on from individuals out there in the campsites. I'm pretty sure if you walked up to some of them and said, who do you think's going to win the race? They'd reply, what race? I'm pretty sure it's a beer and music festival to some.
I thought you were going to say the Dacia Logan, because so many people would absolutely love that. Yeah,
it's a lot of beer.
But it's now heading down the Dottinger and is going to get swallowed up by one of the middle order cars, let's say. But the Logan, which has had a fair bit of work done to it, I think it's fair to say. I mean, that's full race suspension from a Renault Megane, is it? And
yeah, it's got a Renault Megane RS turbo engine in it. It looks like it's done a few miles just visually when you look under the bonnet. But yeah, I mean, it might look like a Dacia Logan that you see at in the supermarket car park, but up close, it's very, very modified.
Yeah. And it's actually at least the second car that they've been through, because remember, what was it, 3 years ago? There was a big crash in the middle of the night where, unfortunately, the Logan was in the wrong place at the wrong time as the SP9 scrap descended upon it in the darkness. And sadly, one of those SP9 cars tripped over the Dacia Logan, and it ended up heavily in the wall and out of the race.
And redesigned.
Massively so.
Yeah,
not as it left the factory.
No, it was significantly shortened, and I think that whole chassis got binned, didn't it? This is a completely start afresh. This is the McLaren Artura going past the Dacia Logan. We haven't spoken too much about that car, but it is a car that is brand new to the Nürburgring 24 Hours. The Artura Trophy is a one-make trophy introduced by McLaren 2 years ago in Europe, and then this year in America, and started to see those cars branch away from that one-make championship and get used in things like this, where there is always a place for any racing car. We'll find a class for you to slot in. Dürr Motorsport are running that car. Timo Glock should have been in it, but unfortunately having a medical procedure has prevented him from taking the start, so he has been replaced. And actually, they weren't even going to run the Artura. They were going to run in GT3 in a McLaren to add an extra brand to that GT3 entry list, but unfortunately they were not quite ready with the GT3 car, so they reverted back to the Artura. It's actually the fastest car on the Dottingerhof. It can do about 285, 290 clicks, whereas everybody else seems to be a little bit slower. Another very fast car along the Dottingerhof, equal to the GT3 cars, is the GTI Celebration Volkswagen Golf that has Johan Kristoffersen, the World Rallycross driver, aboard it. And this is a brand new car that has been built for the 24 Hours based upon a development of the TCR car from a couple of years ago, which eventually got all the money pulled from it, and it just became a 24 Hours car. But that is an improvement on that other car, and it is a very fast machine. Nicola Otto bringing the car into the pits right now, and sits 45th overall, fastest in 83.
Yeah,
ATP.
Nico Otto, I think, has been moved across within Max Kruse. On the initial entry list, he wasn't due to be driving that number 19 Golf. I think it was in a 76 car, but they've clearly got a lot of drivers that maybe they feel are going to fit together better in different machinery. So a late-ish adjustment. He's certainly not the only one.
But they've got 3 cars in 83, Max Kruse Racing. Max Kruse being a footballer, very famous German footballer. I don't know anything about football, so I can't tell you anything more than what it says on his Wikipedia page, which is an attacking midfielder or forward.
You have no idea what that means, do you?
Doesn't have 4 wheels.
It's his job to score.
Okay, cool.
Score the goals.
And he's here, and he's got his name behind, I think, 4 cars, 3 of them in the 83 category, which is the alternatives fuel, one of the alternative fuel categories, but he is in the number 10 on my entry list with a load of Swiss drivers. We've got the 19, and then the 76 is where you find Benjamin Luckner and Johan Kristoffersen, which is that 50-year anniversary celebration car. And something happening very exciting in the Boulevard today with regards to VW Golf GTI. I think they're launching an anniversary edition road car as well.
Big news, big, massive news.
Oh, yes.
The Dacia isn't slowest. It's just put in a 10 minutes 57.6 and has gone ahead of the number 101 BMW 325i. We haven't got a team name. Its driver is Velka, and it's gone quicker by a couple of seconds, so it's off the bottom of the screens. It's still running 7th in the SP3T class, but it's underneath 11 minutes. I told you it was going quicker, didn't I, Ben?
Yes, and the 101 car on my entry list is the Felkind or Felkind Racing, which is in its own category of BMW 325. Almost a renter seat category, that one, with 2 Swedes, a Japanese, and then Carsten Velka also in that car. Michael Schrey is in the second of those cars. Where have I seen Michael Schrey before?
24H series, Creventic?
Probably. That's where you find most of those
That's
cars.
generally the answer to all those questions, I find. It's a bit like Peter Bonk and the Bonk brothers, always in Creventic as well. But they're here this weekend with Bonk Motorsport, both by title but also running other cars within the entry. So there's something by Bonk Motorsport.
Is Martin Kroll here?
Martin Kroll here? Is a great question.
I did see, he did like a picture of the Bonk BMW on my Facebook, but I haven't seen his name on any of the entry lists. I haven't come across his name, I should say.
Now checking in with TCR, the 830. This is actually a legitimate TCR entry. There are 2 Hyundai Motorsport Works cars. We've got Works press officers from America and Europe in the press room. They are taking it incredibly seriously. And the 830 is Mark Basseng, Christa Jons and Manuel Lauk aboard that car right now.
No slouches, those guys, are they?
But they are in competition with the Americans. So we've got Target running the European car, and then we have Brian Herter running, in theory, the American car, even though they're both run under the same Hyundai Motorsport N banner. The Elantra is a car you can't buy in Europe. It is an American and Asian model, but took over from the I-30. In the world of TCR,
basically the saloon, isn't it? It's the
3-box
saloon.
Yeah. And in the 813 out on circuit right now is Robert Wickens, which is great to have him. He missed last year, didn't he? Because he crashed in the qualifying race. So was that 2 years ago?
It feels like 2 years ago.
Was it? Okay.
But it was into Tiergarten, and the car actually cleared the barrier, so it went over the catch fencing there. And I remember Bruce Jones and I were commentating on that NLS race and thought, where on earth has the car ended up? And we realised it was then actually with the marshals, but beyond the circuit perimeter. Scary accident, especially considering Robert, for understandable reasons, drives that car with the hand controls. It was then tricky to extricate him in a safe way. So, there was a concern that he would race again. Would he race again? But he's back, like you say, eager for the next challenge, and has already been in Nürburgring qualifying action last month.
So Wickens is 57th overall, second in TCR, and quite a few, 6-7 positions behind Manuel Lauk, who is leading the TCR category. What's the difference in time between those two? 8:56 plays a 9 minutes, so 4 and a bit seconds for Robert to find as he enters the pits, in fact. This is what I love about this. Every time the director showed us a new car, you go, oh, there's another interesting person to talk to. Talk about.
Too right. I'm used to getting into this race about 22 or 23 hours in and spotting a car for the first time.
Well, yes.
Because, I always think if we've had a few retirements, they just chuck a few out again from the paddock to flesh out the entry. No, we don't need to do that.
I have to say, I'm loving the directors and the producers' opinion of this session. We're not really seeing very many SP9 cars, and we are flicking around the order and picking up all of the interesting liveries and interesting stories, and doing a great job of showing us the full field, because if you watch Le Mans 24 Hours, you may have thought there were only 12 cars in it, thanks to the choices that television are making, but you can't get away from what this Nürburgring 24 Hours is, and it is ultimately the ultimate amateur endurance race.
It's the epitome of multi-class racing, isn't it? Because the speed of the Dacia in comparison to any of the GT3 cars is absolutely massive. And, you could argue putting them on a track like the Nürburgring Nordschleife is completely and utterly crazy and lacking in imagination, but it works. It works. It has jeopardy. It certainly has danger, as we've seen this afternoon, and that was nothing to do with the fact that we have multi-class racing. That's just the speed of the track. But it is a fascinating concept to see the difference in all of our classes, using all different types of fuel and technologies as well, which undoubtedly we'll be able to go into in more depth over the weekend. But quite fascinating way of going racing here. And then just to add the complexity of the rules that we have here for the N24, it's got a lot of depth, this event.
Yeah, you're alluding to the fact that because of the conventional way that the cars are fueled in pit lane, you're sharing a fuel pump. It's pistol grip triggers like you might find in a supermarket as well. So no high-performance Formula 1 type rig. And because you can never guarantee the consistent fuel flow up and down pit lane, actually every single pit stop for the SP9s and for some of the lower classes, I believe, are determined by a minimum pit stop reference time. But that alters according to how many laps you've just done in the stint. So you might have a 5-lap stint, 6, 7, maximum of 8-lap stint. And the longer you've been out on track just now, then you pit, the longer the pit stop's got to be, which serves to equalise the point where you've got to take on fuel. But there's also a lot of kind of kicking around waiting for the clock to tick by, and the mechanics are waiting, and then the car is waved out. And that's not stationary time, that's from pit in to pit out. Very easy to misjudge that when you're trying to preserve tenths, if not hundreds of seconds.
And the alternative fuels cars have a separate area where they pit, which is the more conventional fuel station, let's say at the top end of pit lane, because of course they can't take on the usual racing fuel because they are alternatively fueled. It does limit the amount of alternative fuel cars we can have entered into the Nürburgring 24 hours because of the space involved in that pit area. So this year we have 11 alternative fuel cars, and they aren't all the same alternative fuel as well. Right. They've all got different. We'll go into that later because there's quite a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we've got a lot of talking to do, and that's one of the subjects. If you're a technical geek like I am, that we enjoy to talk about. We've got some information coming in about a friend of Radio Show Limited, Peter Kate. He's in the 959, and he's not in the official order because that was a very late deal. He's in the 959 SRS Team Sorg Ren Sport entry. It's a 718 Cayman GT4 RS. He's sharing the car with Heiko Eichenberg, Harley Horton, and Bjorn Simon. Well, I say sorry, Peter, to highlight this. We've had a bit of a spin at this Sabine Schmidt curver, and harmless spin continued on his way. But Peter there, Peter was a former teammate of John Hindhaugh as well, wasn't he? Was Peter in that Aston at quarter?
He was.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he? Yeah, I thought so. So that's another accolade, isn't it? Teammate of Hindhaugh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
SP7 has got a new fastest lap time, a new class leader. My problem is, Johnny, that it's the 909, and for some reason that doesn't exist on my entry list. So
excellent.
It's got Ertl in it, and he set the best time of an 8:49.9. But when I look at SP7, 909 does not exist.
Right, let me give you a bit of news on that. So it's the Ertl family. So what we can't tell you is whether it's Lucas, Maximilian or Stefan, but they're all due to drive along with Matthias Bendorf, and that is an SP7 Porsche, so a little bit like in the same class as the Porsche that caught fire yesterday, only it's a 991 iteration of the GT3 Cup car.
Now, last night there was a family team, talking of family teams, that had one of their drivers penalised and disqualified from the event. Remind me of that little story. Yeah,
well, Joe and I went down to meet a number of different people actually on Wednesday, and I was intrigued by the Binkowska family because 3 drivers in the SRS Team Sorg Ren Sport 979 Porsche Cayman sharing with Alex Muller, and it's actually Alex Muller's car. Now, Dietmar Binkowska, who is the dad of otherwise a daughter and son, who have been watching Dietmar and their dad race in the 24 hours for many, many years. And Dietmar reckoned about 20 years ago, he said to the young kids, one day, wouldn't it be great to do this race together as a family? Thinking at the time, they'll just forget about that. It's a nice little thing to throw out.
20 years ago, they'll have been pretty small kids as well.
They would have been. I was going to say toddlers, but slightly older.
Yeah.
So what, 5, 6 years old?
Maybe, yeah.
Watching Daddy go and race around the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and his hope was, they'll just forget about that. And they'll move on to something that costs a lot less money. Anyway, they didn't forget, conveniently, and David and Annalena, Dietmar's kids, have actually raced, I think, with him in 4-hour races, but they've never done a 24-hour race before. This weekend was meant to be their first attempt at the 24-hour race. However, Annalena was in the car yesterday. I'm not sure whether it was the morning or rather the afternoon or the evening session, but through several different marshal posts, she was pinged at doing much higher speed than she should have been doing through code 60s, through code 120s, and because it was about 5 sectors or 5 marshal posts in a row, she's actually been banned from the event this year, and I'm wondering whether she might even have to get a licence reissued through qualification races again. What I haven't done is gone down to the team to find out what their plan is now, because obviously Alex Muller will want to race, so will Dietmar and David. So can they find a 4th driver?
Oh, they can do it with 3.
They could do it with 3, but that would be brave.
Yeah, well,
for David's first attempt.
Yeah, they can do it with 3, and it just means they're a little bit more seat time. It is going to be a little more strenuous, but we see there's quite a few entries with only 3 drivers this year, isn't there?
Yeah, but they're tending to be more of the pro-type cars.
We haven't seen that car out today. There's actually quite a few cars that haven't taken part in this session, and that number 979 is one of them. So sitting out qualifying 3. You talk about SRS team SRO Sport that seem to have a couple of those family teams. They're running 8 cars across the entry. I reckon that's probably the busiest of the teams. There's quite a few teams out there. Bess Racing, for instance, is another team that got multiple cars, and Max Kruse we've already spoken about with at least 4, but at 8 I think SRS team SRO Sport are the most busy.
The only one that would compare, but I don't think beat it, is Adrenaline Motorsport team Manhattan Wheels, who are, now let me just check my very newly bought book on last year's Nürburgring. I've been waiting for an opportunity to use this.
This is very old-fashioned, Johnny, that you're actually
I'm using
going
a
to
book.
a book.
I know.
Made from paper.
Dive into my library.
It's only 1 book, so it's a growing library. And last year, for the 7th consecutive time, the champions of the Nürburgring Langstrecke Series were Adrenaline Motorsport team. And they're very much a arrive and drive. You know, that you organise an opportunity with the team, a customer team. Yeah, so they bring the cars here. They provide you with a seat.
You can buy a drive.
And you can buy a drive. And team principal Matthias Unger overseeing matters at Adrenaline Motorsport team, who are right at the end of pit out. And they've probably got, well, at least 2 garages, maybe 3, because of the amount of cars. But yes, I reckon there's 8 entries from Adrenaline Motorsport, 8 entries from SRO Sport. So they're level pegging as far as that's concerned. Each one will be trying to outdo one another within their own subcategories tomorrow and the day after.
And that's what this race is about also. It's not, all right, we tend to focus on the front of the field and the SB9, and we've just done top qualifying. But there's all sorts of, dare I say it, my cliche, Johnny, soap operas behind those garage doors. There were shared soap operas, and there's inter-team rivalry. There's certainly inter-class rivalry. There'll be, you know, you find cars that you can compete with out there in whatever class you're in, and there'll be lots of races within this race, of course, that we will not necessarily know anything about, because it's private little battles that are going on there within teams. And if you know of any, if you know anyone's racing here, and you know of any inter-team rivalry, brother against sister, father and son, father and daughter, then, you know, fire us a message in and give us a bit of insight of what soap operas are indeed going on behind those garage doors.
It'll be the garage doors, and it'll be the campsites where the main stories will be run.
I dread to think.
There'll be a lot of stories, especially the heat in those campsites this weekend. Will require you, as it did a couple of years ago at my wedding, to drink a lot of beer, because it keeps you hydrated-ish. And I imagine the beer consumption in the campsites are going to be a lot more than even last year, where it was cold and raining.
Yeah, well, what's incredible about this event is we're going to see on the TV cameras will invariably pick up on a lot of the atmosphere here. And you see structures made out of bits of scaffolding, bits of wood. You've got people carrying literally 3-piece suites into the woods, where they'll set up on a piece of wooden platform, and it'll be there. But by Sunday evening, all of those structures, all of that rubbish, all of that litter will be completely and utterly removed. And by Monday morning, by Monday afternoon, it will be hard to think that all of these people have actually been out there around this track. It's incredible discipline and commendable.
we worked out the reason why this event is not being held on Ascension Day this year. Because usually it's either Ascension Day or Corpus Christi Day. Ascension Day is a national holiday. Corpus Christi is a regional holiday, and not all the German regions partake in Corpus Christi, although they do in Ascension Day. Ascension Day this year was the 9th of June. It relies upon when Easter falls, and Google how Easter is decided, because that is a complicated equation. But that was
It's to do with the moon or something, isn't it?
Don't get me started. We'll do that in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But that is due to the 2 weeks ago was Rock am Ring here, a massive rock festival, which makes far more money, would you believe, than any motorsport event at the Nürburgring.
That's not surprising.
And so they couldn't hold the race on that weekend. That is why it's Corpus Christi weekend. That's why it's fallen at this weekend. And when it was planned 3 or 4 years ago, they would have known that it would be close proximity to Le Mans, but they wouldn't have known about the Spa 24 Hours, because at that time, that was at the end of July, before Formula One went and bullied their way into taking that date. So it has ended up with this very unusual situation whereby we have 3 24-hour races in 3 weekends, and 2 24-hour races within about 100 kilometres of each other in 2 weekends as well.
Yeah.
By the way, there's only about 75 cars that have taken part in this session. So a good opportunity, if you want to go and improve your lap time and improve your qualifying position, to do so, because we've had over an hour's worth of running, although he says that just as a yellow flag comes out on circuit. Yeah, only half the cars have been seen.
Well, those 50 or so plus cars that haven't needed to go out in Q3, just kind of, that's the indication that they're all ready to go. They are ready for race weekend, and they're ready to get things underway at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon for the race start here. The green flag will fly, and there is, you know, they're not necessarily wanting to wear their cars out, put any more miles on the engines, the gearboxes. Some of our competitors are running at budgets, reduced budgets, and there's all sorts of reasons. And if everybody's got experience, if all of your drivers have got experience here, then, you know, you are just going to wear your car out by going round and round, and suspension components, shock absorbers, etc., etc. You know, just park it up, enjoy the sunshine, and then get ready to go racing tomorrow.
We have 11 minutes remaining of the session. We still have one of the last SP9 cars in Dynamic Motorsport Porsche, number 54. That's 15th position on our timing screen, but it will start down in 27th or so. It's got 6 or 7 SP9 cars ahead of it. Surely now is an opportunity to go out there and improve that grid position. And I would say the same for Rover Racing, BMW, and Kelvin van der Linde, because they're pretty much at the tail of the SP9 field, and they are the only BMW, and surely there'll be a phone call from BMW headquarters saying, go on, just get a little bit higher up the grid, because they missed out on top qualifying. They are the only car representing the German brand, the most successful brand here at the Nürburgring 24 Hours, with 20 wins overall, and they're kind of inconspicuous and nowhere at the moment.
Manuel Lauk has just done the fastest TCR time of the 3 sessions. Remember, they're all bolted together to produce a combined effort. 8:52.9 takes Lauk. Now, what I didn't track was whether he's actually gone ahead into provisional pole.
No.
He was already ahead of 8:31.
Yeah.
Fine. So that's just cemented his place ahead of Bryson Morris, the American. I had a little word with Bryson yesterday. He was having a catch-up with Nick Johnson, who's in the Tracy Crone RPM racing car, and also Samantha Tan was having a chat in the press room. It's a nice time actually of the weekend when the drivers briefing assembles in the big media centre that is here at the Nürburgring. There's a German language drivers briefing, there's then an English language drivers briefing. I think that's about it, so you better hope that you can speak one or the other. But it's also a good little social time as well to see drivers that maybe you haven't seen for a good year or so. Hearing in the background the 110 Toyota Supra driven by Naoya Gamu. Gamu part of that Toyota Gazoo rookie racing entry with the 2 awesome GR Yaris's. But that's the 3rd car in their stable that runs in SP8T. And Gamu is currently 3rd fastest in SP8T behind the Duo Motorsport McLaren Artura.
That TCR time of Manuel Lauk, just a fraction behind the number 320, 46th position. In the AT2 category, we've got Max Kruse in AT2, we've got Manthey in AT2, and we've got 4 Motors, which is the 320. And one of those drivers, well, it says Bonk on my timing screen. I've got no idea who Mr. Bonk is because he's not on my entry list. But we do have Smuddo in that car. Michael Bernd Schmuddo Schmidt, who is a German rapper for the group Die Francesken Wehr. And he has been a rapper for over 30 years. And he is driving the 320. So not in it at the moment, but presumably will take over from Bonk at some point. It's not Mr. Bonk, as we know from Bonk Motorsport, because I don't think it's anything to do with him. But Smuddo is part of that. Another one, you know, we just dug in and found another interesting character. Not somebody we would know in the UK, but if you are a resident of Germany, then you may well have heard of Die Francesken Wehr. And I've probably said that wrong.
You probably have.
Yeah.
I've got his latest album, actually. I'll let you listen to it. Samantha Tan, you mentioned, Johnny. She's in a Mini. I mean, we're familiar with Samantha in 24H series.
Is that the Bulldog Racing Mini? I think there's only one in the race.
That's one, yeah.
I think
Oh,
so.
no.
Now then, that's the Toyota GR Supra GT4E with the car 110, the 110. Just seeing if we can hear any.
Yeah, they were talking just, but now he's powered the engine off.
That's Naoya Gamo at the wheel of the car. Now that's just slowed down and pulled off to driver's right. I'm just trying to get the location on that.
It's either the run towards Brunchen or Franzgarten.
Schwalbenschwanz.
Schwalbenschwanz. That one.
Is it?
Yes, it is. The run up to Schwalbenschwanz. Corner of the tracker, Johnny.
Okay.
That's he's got moving again, I believe.
So after Schwalbenschwanz?
No,
just before Skaugenkopf?
Just through the right-hand sweeps.
That's Schwalbenschwanz now.
Now at Schwalbenschwanz.
Okay.
Just coming through the left-hander and then the Kleine Carousel. He's got moving again very slowly, but he is now at the Kleine Carousel. So whether he clearly done a Control-Alt-Delete reset there. What do we mean by that? You hear us talking about a Control-Alt-Delete. Well, it's basically you just switch everything off, and you've got a myriad of switches. Just checking, you disconnect fuses and disconnect the ECU. You switch everything down, and you switch it all back on again. It's just like your computer or your phone. It works again.
Well, it's a reference to the olden days of computers. For those of you who are millennials, if I said that right, Control-Alt-Delete was how you used to reset a Microsoft software, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if did you still need to do it?
Well, it still brings up the thing called the task manager.
Okay.
And then you can close whatever program is having a bit of a mare.
All right, so it's still a thing.
Yeah. On Windows devices.
You know, when you mention floppy disks to people or CDs,
no.
they will go.
I mean, even I haven't got a clue about floppy disks. When did they? When were they a
come
thing?
on,
That was 90s, wasn't it?
Floppy. You've played with a floppy disk in your time.
Might have done. But yeah, Control-Alt-Delete. There aren't actually any keyboards in these cars, I don't think. But turn everything off, restart it, and then hopefully, as you burst the kernel into life, it's this little thing called a kernel in a Windows device, and you have to wake it up, and then
Not a kernel as in army kernel.
not as in the fried chicken guy. No.
Wake up, Colonel.
I've got some information for you, Ben. How did you pronounce that rapper's name?
Smuddo?
Smuddo. Right.
Smootho.
And that's from Sebastian Meyer.
Oh, yeah.
Seb, our cameraman for Creventic events.
Smootho.
He's here. He's here and he's staying at Centre Park.
He's the kind of person that would listen to Smootho, isn't he?
I don't know. We're going to find out because he's not far from us.
He's staying in Centre
Yeah.
Parks as well.
He's just signed up for the table tennis tournament tonight.
Go to the petting zoo in the morning.
Yes. I'm going to milk a goat.
Of course I said it wrong.
Yeah.
Of course I said it wrong.
Well, you're not
You would have
going
said it right.
I don't know if I would. Well, I've got a northern accent.
Your northern accent lends itself.
Smootho.
Smootho.
Perfect.
Northern accent, lads.
Nico Bastian's brought the 37 car into the pit lane. That might have happened a little while ago. And Frank Stippler as well, who has been out in this session, as in running in this session. But the 64 car is going to finish, well, as things stand, 7th fastest. I realise we've still got just under 4 minutes to go.
There was a really good lap, actually, from the 84 machine with Norbert Siedler aboard that car. Unfortunately, caught that yellow flag So it was looking green, 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 green right to the end of the lap, and he had to back out and didn't improve from 10th position in our overall standings. Kelvin van der Linde is now out. Bastian Buus is now out. Is anybody else driving that BMW? All I've seen is Kelvin van der Linde.
Yeah, we have.
It's like the rest of them haven't turned up yet. But he's doing the legwork, and as we suggested, 3 minutes now remaining, an opportunity to change your grid position perhaps. The top two in SP9 that are allowed out, which have not been part of top qualifying, they are in the pits, so they are not going to improve. And that is the Pro Sport Aston Martin, that time set yesterday, and the 64 of Dennis Olsen was the start of this session where he improved his time up to second SP9. But the sound you can hear is the sole BMW, Farfus, Krohn, Marcello and van der Linde. I definitely haven't seen any of those other drivers driving that car. And he is right in the middle of the lap. How's it looking?
Yeah, he's not really doing anything. He hasn't put a green sector time in yet. He's just, I think he's just gathering a bit of tyre data. He's not really on it at all. He's not going to improve on his 8 minutes 16.7.
Well, the other thing is, I reckon this is an out lap. So
could well be.
He's from the pit lane anyway, so...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he's gearing up for one last push with...
Well, yeah, but is he going to get back to the line in time?
Let me just get a locator on it.
Oh, yeah, it should be okay, because he's at Schwabenschwanz now, so it doesn't take 2 minutes to leave Galgenkopf and head down the Dottinger Hohe. So he should squeeze a fast lap out of this. Remember, a session that is re-timetabled to finish at 5:45 in the evening will extend, due to the nature of this track, the length of it could easily extend to about 5:06. So 90 seconds left on the clock. He will easily cross the line. And this is an attempt to get as high up that grid as possible, as I say, with quite a number of question marks remaining around the 16 top qualifying cars that did their stuff at 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Whereas Bastian Buus, he's also in a similar part. He's behind the 98, so with 1 minute and 15 seconds remaining, could be tight for Bastian Buus. Assenheimer as well?
No, sorry, I've got the wrong Bastian then, because as you quite rightly say, Ben, they've put the names in the right order now for the Dane. So this is a flying lap for Bastian Buus.
Yeah, he's up at the Flansgarden at the moment, so it's not looking good for him to get by and take on another lap. Van der Linde's made it with about 47 seconds on the clock. However, the number 54 just coming up the Schwabenschwanz now, 40 seconds left on the clock. He's not going to do that. So Bastian Buus in the dynamic Porsche is going to have to settle for where he is, I'm afraid.
It's a long way down for that 54. Strong team, Dynamic Motorsport from Italy, racing in the Italian GT Championship. We've got Cairoli, Loic Hartog, Joel Sturm in that car again. Drivers that I haven't seen a huge amount of versus Bastian Buus's name. But they are one of the last.
Hartog in 2 cars here.
Is he?
Yeah, you mentioned he was in the Hyundai Elantra.
No.
Is that Luke Hartog?
No, that's another Luke, I think.
Ah, right.
No, that's Matthias Lau.
Matthias Lau. Yeah, sorry. I'm getting my Lauks and my Lukes mixed up.
Hartog, he's only in 1 car, but he is on the list of 7 drivers doing all 3
there is
24-hour races.
As if
there you go.
Shall receive, just coming into the pits in the Hyundai Elantra. 830 is the number on that car. And that session, they are ready to finish it at the checkered flag. And we will get a lot of cars still out on the track, as we are now. 0 time remaining on the clock, and the checkered flag will be flying on the start-finish straight.
Did Norbert Siedler improve on his last lap? No, he didn't. So what happened to him? He got caught in traffic and then backed out of it. So really, the only car out there to improve, Bastian Buus is not improved from 15th, and it wasn't an attempt because it's an 8:21.8, his best time an 8:19.0, so it was an attempt to go faster, but he hasn't been able to. And it really does leave, in terms of the top runners, van der Linde with the only driver that can improve. Norbert Schiedler, was slow in sector 1. It was a full Grand Prix loop for sector 1, so he won't be improving.
Now you can, after the checkered flag, go around the full lap here, can't you?
Yeah.
You're not bringing them in the back door. And this is an opportunity for some of the cars and drivers, some of the teams and drivers, I should say, another lap on the tyres, just to see, you know, what another lap, if they're trying to evaluate tyre wear, that will give them that. And again, track familiarisation for certain drivers will come in handy with an extra lap as well.
It's what Seidler's doing, because Seidler did a 3.5 minutes sector 1, which should be 40 seconds, but every other sector is a green sector for that car. This is the 84 machine, which is an Audi R8. And so he is pushing on. He won't be an improvement because his first sector was so slow.
That's true, but he hasn't seen the checkered flag yet, has he? So I think later on, when we get to about 5.26 and cars are coming across the line to see the checkered flag, then you are obliged to go into pit lane via the back door, having done a Grand Prix lap. The other thing I've just noticed is that an awful lot of the cones right in front of our commentary box have been absolutely obliterated from their position. So somebody's caught those cones at the end of the long line of them. This is the final session of the week where that extra or sort of semi-coned off lane, and it is a single lane up against the pit wall, will be in use. Checkered flag just beyond where those cones used to stand is now being waved. And there's definitely a chance for Kelvin van der Linde to improve in the 98 BMW from Rover Racing.
What's his splits look like at the moment?
They're okay.
Yeah? 42.7 in sector 2 is the fastest, and he did a 43.0, so that's just 0.3 off the best. And he's given away 1.2 in sector 3 as well. Giving away 0.2 of a second in the tiny sector 4, which is just 10 seconds long, and we're awaiting the long sector 5 of 1.5 minutes, or 1:45 seconds actually, for him to complete that. He just completes it at 1:47.1, so another 0.9 of a second given away over the fastest lap time. But in total, he is still 6.5 seconds shy of the best time that we've had all weekend. Christopher Haas's best time in qualifying, better than top qualifying as well. So it could be possible improvement.
Seidler, as you say, in the 84 Easterland Audi, quicker than it's been across all of the 3 sessions to this point, apart from that opening sector when he either began from the pits or he did a loop of the Grand Prix circuit. But Easterland could be giving just their engineers an idea of how fast that Audi might go in the race. Wasn't one of the list of pre-qualifiers for the top qualifying session and didn't manage to sneak in either. But if one Audi can go fast, then you would expect all the R8s to have similar performance. It's the same balance of performance across each of the individual manufacturers.
What is very impressive is just how well that Toyota JR Super GT4 and the number 110. Now he gets overtaken by van der Linde, but as quick through that section of Klostertal and up towards the carousel, very little gain by van der Linde on the Toyota. Now we find stretches its legs on the stretch from the carousel out towards Whipham, and now the number 98 is in that section heading towards Brunchen, which is where you make the time up here, I think.
It's amazing how much you can hear the tyre scrub.
Yeah.
I mean, there really is wheel squeal in some of the corners, isn't there? It's an unusual thing to hear, but it must be now the type of tarmac we've got in certain parts of the area.
It tells me it's pretty hardish compound, that.
Yeah, okay. What are they on? Are they on the Michelin?
It would have to be.
Yeah, pretty sure they are.
Is on a Michelin, yeah. Michelin.
Well, yeah, they're known to be hard. We now have a green sector for van der Linde in sector 6. It's only a 35-second sector, and he has given away another 0.6 of a second to Christopher Haas. So we should point out this is not going to be the fastest time of qualifying, but he does only need to find a couple of seconds to be the fastest of those not through in qualifying, in top qualifying. and certainly he could do with improving.
Yeah, looking to better an 8:14.6, which is the Marek Bachmann time, long-standing from yesterday's qualifying 2, but the first 15 minutes of qualifying 2, so at about 10 past 8 last night, that 8:14.6 was set in the orange and green Aston Martin Vantage of Pro Sport Racing. The difficulty here down the Dottinger Hoor is that Kelvin van der Linde's got no one else to play with, if you like, down the Dottinger Hoor. There's no car that can create a tow that we will get many times over in the race. Therefore, the kidney grill, the flaring nostrils of the BMW, gulping in air as it now hits the brakes into Tiergarten. Hohenrhein immediately afterwards. There's no doubt Kelvin van der Linde is pushing as hard as he feels is comfortable to do so. And we'll go across the line then. The 98 BMW setting, it's not an improvement. It's already done an 8:16.7, and that's an 8:18.7. So lost 2 seconds in comparison to its previous best lap in the other sessions. There are now yellow flags at Arenberg.
Yeah, I'm not so sure how and why, because there's no car there.
That's a good question.
So a bit of debris perhaps in the foxhole.
Yeah. Top of that run down to Adenauer Forst. If you're crossing the line now to see the checkered flag, you will be allowed to slow down on the Grand Prix track, but then be waved, I'm sure, via the Hyundai Curva. That's the hairpin, by the way, that links or is the end of the Grand Prix track, and you can use a bit of that to head down pit lane. So nobody's managed to better the Christopher Haase time that was set at just after 8 o'clock last night. The 28 Lamborghini has had different drivers in it through the course of the session afterwards, or sessions, but no improved time for the 28, the 27 Lamborghinis that both made it into top qualifying, as did the 34 Valkenhorst Motorsport Aston Martin. So that is it for qualifying. In fact, all of the positions, bar the shouting, should have been decided now for the grid and the 53rd edition of the ADAC Ravenol 24 hours of the Nürburgring. Thanks to Ben Constanduros, Joe Bradley. I'm Johnny Palmer, signing off after 2 very intense days of qualifying. We'll see you tomorrow for the warm-up session, which begins at midday, and the race starts itself at 4 o'clock, with the build-up beginning at 3:30. Bye-bye for now. Enjoy your Friday night.